Part 2, Mislaid, from Chapter 15 to 20.
Chapter 15. Beneath the Tree. With the word lost, everything beneath Jack's feet vanished. He was falling, or rather slowly sinking, down through the place where the floor should have been. It was as though he was trapped in some thick substance he couldn't feel or see. The tree lights had disappeared. All was inky blankness. "Christmas pig!" Jack called in panic. "I'm here," came the Christmas pig's voice out of the darkness. "Don't worry, this is how you enter the land of the lost. It'll be light in a moment." Sure enough, within a few seconds, Jack was able to see the Christmas pig again. Like Jack, he was floating downward. Their surroundings became gradually lighter until Jack realized they were both sinking through their own column of golden light. Above them were two round holes in a wooden ceiling that Jack thought must be the floor of the world they'd left, his world, where Mom lived, where everything he knew existed. Down, down, down they sank. And now Jack noticed that he and the Christmas pig were far from the only things sinking slowly through their columns of light. There were thousands upon thousands of them. Weightless, Jack was able to twist and turn, and in every direction he saw more sinking things. Nearest to Jack were a teaspoon, a shiny red Christmas bubble, a dog whistle, a pair of false teeth, a hand puppet, a shiny coin, a long string of tinsel, a camera, a screwdriver, a plane ticket, some sunglasses, a single sock, a teddy bear, and a roll of wrapping paper patterned with reindeer. "You wouldn't think it was possible, would you?" the wrapping paper called to Jack. One of the reindeer on her surface was talking and blinking. "Third time she's lost me this evening. I've rolled under the radiator. She's panicking. Left the wrapping too late, as usual." The roll of paper had barely uttered these words when she reversed direction and began traveling up instead of down, toward the hole in the ceiling. As she rose out of sight, the wrapping paper shouted, "Yay, she's found me! Good luck! Hope you're back up top soon." Jack didn't answer because he was too astonished by everything that was happening around him, and especially what he could see of the floor below. At first, he thought he was looking down at a carpet of many different colors, but as he sank further, he realized the carpet was really millions of things. Scared, he scanned the floor of the loser, but having no idea what the loser looked like. He couldn't tell whether he was there or not. The lower Jack sank, the louder the noise. The things on the floor were chattering and clattering and clinking and rustling, until the sound was almost deafening. As their surroundings became lighter still, Jack realized that he was inside a gigantic building, like a warehouse, with immensely high brick walls and many holes peppering the wooden ceiling. The things that had reached the ground, the rubber balls in diaries, the paper clips, in tape measures, the cameras, pens, and purses, were all jabbering away in their groups. Jack was so fascinated by everything he was seeing that his landing took him by surprise. His bare feet touched the warm wooden floor, and the Christmas pig landed beside him. In a pathway between a mass of jangling keys and an army of rustling umbrellas. "We'll need a ticket," said the Christmas pig briskly. "Come on." The Christmas pig led Jack off along the path between the keys on one side and the umbrellas on the other. They passed a knife, a skewer, and a long knitting needle. Jack could tell they were all important because they each wore a peaked black hat with an L on it, which somehow stayed balanced on the tops of them, even while they were hopping along. The things in the hats were patrolling the edges of the path, making sure the others remained in their groups and keeping the walkway free for things that had only just arrived. Those are the loss adjusters. The Christmas pig muttered to Jack, "I've heard about them from things that have been here before. They are the loser's servants. They enforce his laws in exchange for not being eaten." A pair of long diamond earrings now landed in front of Jack and the Christmas pig. They were sparkling so brightly, Jack had to squint to look at them. "Who's in charge here?" cried one of the earrings in a grand voice. "We're very valuable," shouted her twin. "We require assistance." "Calm down, ladies," said a croaking tennis ball, bouncing up alongside Jack and the Christmas pig. The ball looked as though it had been chewed by a dog and was very smelly. "I've been through this a load of times before." "I have." "It looks a mess, but they are organized." The earrings seemed offended at being addressed by an object so filthy. "I think we're in the wrong place," cried the first earring, glittering as she turned on the spot looking for assistance. "Where do the precious things go?" cried her sister. But nobody answered. To their right, the keys yelling up at the distance holes in the ceiling, saying things like, "I'm in your other coat, you idiot," or "You've left me in the lock again." The umbrellas seemed quieter and sadder. Jack heard an old black one say, "I expect it's all over this time. He's left me on the train. He'll probably buy a new one." A tin opener in a black hat now approached, walking on metal legs. She had a small box around her neck and thin metal arms just below her handle. "Tickets," shouted the tin opener. "New arrivals. Get your tickets here." "Let me do the talking," the Christmas pig told Jack. But before he could ask for a ticket, the diamond earrings pushed in front of him. "We're in the wrong place," said the first earring. "Where do important things go?" asked the second. "Jewelry is over there by the west wall," said the tin opener, pointing. "But you need tickets first. Here." She tore off 2 blue tickets from the little box hanging round her neck and gave one each to the earrings. "West wall," she repeated because the earrings hadn't moved. "I don't think you understand," said the first earring. "We're made of real diamonds. You can't put us in with a bunch of common plastic beads," said the second earring. "Surely there's a place for valuables." "Get along to your waiting area," snapped the tin opener. "Diamonds or plastic, it's all the same down here. We'll soon know how much you're worth up there." Clearly offended, the earrings wiggled off toward the west wall. The loss adjuster gave the tennis ball a blue ticket too. "Dog toys are over there, between shoes and school books." It bounced away. The tin opener then turned to Jack and the Christmas pig. "Have you just arrived too?" "Yes, we were lost together," said the Christmas pig. "We fell out of our owner's pocket." "Kids," snorted the tin opener, tearing off 2 more blue tickets and handing them to Jack and the Christmas pig. "They're responsible for half the things down here. Careless little brutes. When it's quiet, we can hear them crying from up there. Ought to keep a tighter hold on Teddy if they don't want the loser getting him, shouldn't they?" I suppose so, said the Christmas pig. Nice workmanship, added the tin opener, looking at Jack. Good detailing. Thank you, said Jack nervously. Children's toys are right over by the north wall, she added. You will need a lift. It's too far to walk. She gave a screeching whistle, and an old roller skate came zooming along the path towards them. It was the size of a golf cart compared to Jack and the Christmas pig. They clambered inside, both just tall enough to see over the top. The roller skate trundled off toward the place where the toys were waiting, and Jack felt a lurch of excitement. Any moment now, he'd be seeing DP again.
Chapter 16 Mislaid. They sped past lost playing cards, baby's shoes, lip balms, and pencil cases, and all the while thousands upon thousands more lost things floated down through golden shafts of light from the holes above. As they neared the middle of the warehouse, Jack saw an enormous clock with 4 faces, positioned on a tall pillar so that everything could see it from whenever they were standing in the enormous building. At least, Jack thought it was a clock, but then he realized it has only one hand and no numbers. The colors of the rainbow ran around the outside of the face, and the clock's single hand was about to move out of yellow into green. I thought the land of the lost was supposed to be frightening, Jack said to the Christmas pig. The huge warehouse was certainly noisy and confusing, but Jack wasn't scared. We haven't gotten outside yet, said the Christmas pig. But we don't need to go outside, said Jack. You heard the tin opener. DP will be beside the north wall with all the other toys. He won't, said the Christmas pig. He's been lost too long. I heard all about this bit from the keys of the shop where I was bought. They'd been here a lot. This place is called Mislaid. It's where things go when they aren't probably lost yet. A human might just have put a thing down for a couple of minutes and forgotten where they left it, for example. Things are allowed to stay in Mislaid for 1 hour to give them a chance of being found before they have to move out into the loser's domain. DP's outside where the loser's is, Jack said, his excitement vanishing in an instant. Yes, said the Christmas pig. But don't worry, as long as he's obeying the law, he should be safe. But my Matchbox car said the loser makes the laws and he cheats. That's true, he does, said the Christmas pig. But DP's a clever and sensible pig. I'm sure he won't do anything silly. How do you know DP's clever and sensible? Said Jack. Because we're brothers, said the Christmas pig. But you've never met him. That doesn't matter. He's my brother, and I'm his. We're the same. You aren't the same at all, said Jack, in case the Christmas pig was about to suggest they go home, and Jack keep him instead. No, said the Christmas pig. I forgot there's something about me that makes you want to pull off my head. I told you I was sorry about that, said Jack. No, you didn't, said the Christmas pig. All right, well, I'm sorry about it, said Jack. After that, they didn't talk for a bit. The roller skate carried them past the great field of library books, their pages swishing as they discussed how they'd been lost. I think I can see toys, said Jack at last. Ahead of them, crowded into a huge area the size of 5 football fields, were dolls, plastic dinosaurs, model cars, skipping ropes, yo-yos, game cards, jigsaw pieces, and dominoes. Every kind of toy imaginable. Even though the Christmas pig had told him DP wouldn't be there, Jack couldn't help hoping to see DP's wonky ears and button eyes, but there was no sign of him anywhere. "What we need," said the Christmas pig, as their roller skate showed down, "is to find a pair of toys ready to swap tickets with us." "Why?" asked Jack. "Because then we'll be allowed out into the land of the lost without waiting an hour," explained the pig. "It should be easy. Everyone here wants to stay as long as they can, because the loser can't touch them in Mislaid." The roller skate came to a halt. They climbed out, and it scooted off again. Close by the place they were standing was a two-headed monster who was whipping into his hands. The monster was brown and lumpy, and a plastic princess in a pink dress and a tiara was comforting him. "I can't believe he hasn't found me," sobbed the monster. "And now I suppose he's fast asleep, dreaming of the new toys he'll get for Christmas, and I'll be eaten by the loser." "Come on now, chins up," said the princess. "There's still time for him to find you." "Ask those two to swap tickets," the Christmas pig whispered to Jack. "But don't tell them why. They will think it very strange that we're keen to leave Mislaid. Go on, you look like another action figure, so they'll trust you." "What reason should I give for swapping?" asked Jack nervously. The Christmas pig thought hard, wrinkling up his snout. "Tell the princess you think she's very pretty," he suggested, "and you'd like to protect her from the loser, and you're willing to swap tickets to keep her safe a bit longer." Jack turned red. "I'm not saying that." "I'll do it then," said the Christmas pig impatiently. He tucked Jack's ticket out of his hand and strode towards the princess and the two-headed monster, the beans in his belly rattling as he walked. "Princess," Jack heard the Christmas pig saying, "my friend has noticed your friend's distress, being a gallant young action fig." At that moment, a jack-in-the-box burst open unexpectedly, which caused a lot of toys nearby to scream with fright. Jack was glad of this, because it meant he couldn't hear all the embarrassing things the Christmas pig was telling the plastic princess. Soon, the Christmas pig was walking back toward him, holding 2 green tickets instead of blue. Over the Christmas pig's shoulder, Jack saw the two-headed monster blowing him kisses. He felt his face burning and turned away. The princess said she didn't need protecting and was quite looking forward to an adventure, said the Christmas pig. "But the monster made her swap with us. He wanted to kiss you, but I said you're too shy." "Good," muttered Jack, taking his new ticket. "We should be able to get out any moment now. With these tickets," said the Christmas pig. "Ah!" He pointed his trotter at the strange clock on the pillar. Its hand was moving from yellow to green. Now Jack realized that when the timer's hand reached a new color, everybody who had a ticket of that shade had to leave Mislaid. "Let's go," said the Christmas pig, as a multitude of things with green tickets began to move out of their enclosures and shuffle off toward the north wall. They all looked nervous. The Christmas pig squared his shoulders. "This is where the real journey starts. Ready?" "Ready," said Jack, nodding. Chapter 17. The 3 Doors. The thousands of green ticket holders formed untidy lines. There was much jostling and pushing. Many things were still staring longingly up at the finding holes in the ceiling, hoping to be caught in a shaft of golden light and transported back up to the land of the living. Lost adjusters and black cats pushed them onward with cruel laughs. too late now. It's time for a location." "What does that mean?" Jack muttered to the Christmas pig. "I'm not sure," said the Christmas pig, "but I think it must have to do with which part of the land of the lost we're sent to." They joined a line behind the magnificent sapphire ring. "Would you believe it?" she was saying loudly to anybody who'd listen. "She took me off to wash her hands and left me behind on the sink." Jack looked anxiously toward the front of the line. At first, he couldn't see what lay there, but their line moved quickly, and soon he realized that they were heading toward a long row of desks at which more lost adjusters sat, among them a mouse trap, a corkscrew, and a stapler. Beyond the desks were 3 gigantic doors. The first was made of plain wood, the kind of you'd find in a barn or an outhouse. The second was made of shining steel, the sort you'd see on a safe or strong room. The last was made of shining gold, and it was beautifully engraved with curling vines and flowers. Many of the things in the lines were pointing at this third door with longing expressions. One by one, the things who had reached the front of the lines were called forward to sit at one of the desks. The lost adjusters asked them questions. Then, when the interview was over, the lost adjuster stamped their ticket and ordered them toward one of the doors. "I'm worried," said the Christmas pig suddenly. "What about?" asked Jack. "About how we're going to get you past the lost adjusters without them realizing you're a human," said the Christmas pig. "The tin opener didn't realize," said Jack. "But it wasn't her job to find out about you or decide where you're sent next," said the Christmas pig. "Quick, we need to come up with a story. What factory were you made in?" "I don't know," said Jack, trying but failing to think of a name that sounded like a factory's. "Say the Dingle Down Factory, Birmingham," said the Christmas pig. "That was my factory, and they made action figures as well as cuddly pigs. Now, what are you called?" "Jack." "Action figures aren't called Jack. We'll say you're Pajama Boy with the power of sleep and dreams." "I don't want to be Pajama Boy," said Jack. "He sounds stupid." "Then say you're called Jack and see what happens," whispered the Christmas pig fiercely as they moved ever closer to the front of the line. "Now, how were you lost?" "I fell out of a boy's pocket," said Jack, copying what the Christmas pig had said earlier to the tin opener. "And where are you now?" asked the Christmas pig. "I'm here talking to you," said Jack. The Christmas pig covered his face with his trotters. "We will be lucky if you aren't thrown straight to the loser." He removed his trotters again and said, "It's your alivened bit that's been sucked down here into the land of the lost. You need to tell the lost adjuster where your plastic body is, see? Up in the land of the living." "This was your plan," said Jack, frightened and a bit cross, because they were now close to the front of the line. "Tell me what I should say, quickly!" But just then, an enormous commotion erupted behind them. Chapter 18. The Prisoner. 2 lost adjusters, a hole punch, and a fork were dragging a small and muddy thing along between 2 lines, using the strong and spindly arms that so many things seemed to grow in the land of the lost. Their prisoner was so filthy that it was almost impossible to see what he really was, although he seemed furry. "Please," the prisoner squeaked. "Please give me a ticket. Let me stay for an hour. Oh, please, please, give me a chance. Somebody might want me. Oh, let me try." As the lost adjusters drew level with Jack and the Christmas pig, Jack saw what the sobbing prisoner was. A tiny blue cuddly bunny who looked as though he'd lain in mud for days, if not weeks. Jack couldn't understand why the loss adjusters were being such bullies to the poor bunny. The fork was poking him to force him along faster, and every time the bunny squealed in pain, the hole punch laughed, opening and shutting so that little circles of paper flew from her like confetti. They dragged their prisoner straight past two of the loss adjusters' desks and headed toward what looked like a metal manhole cover in the floor, which Jack hadn't noticed before. "You belong to the loser, you do," said the hole punch. "Now stop making a scene in front of all these distant things what have got owners up top." "Why are they treating him like that?" Jack whispered to the Christmas pig, who merely shook his head, looking stricken. "Is it because he's dirty?" Jack asked, thinking of grubby old DP. What if DP had been treated like that when he'd arrived in Mislaid? "Never mind the bunny," said the Christmas pig, suddenly looking determined. "This is your chance, Jack. Crawl." "What?" said Jack. "Crawl past the loss adjusters quickly while everyone's watching the bunny. I'll meet you on the other side." Now Jack understood. Everybody was transfixed by the prisoner and his captors, even the loss adjusters at the desks. Jack sank to his knees, crawled past the sapphire ring, and through the gap between two desks toward the group of things that had already been located and were standing in front of the wooden door. These things were far too interested in the fate of the prisoner to notice Jack hadn't joined them. Standing up, he turned to watch what was happening to the bunny now. "Please," he was squealing. "Oh, please, give me a chance. There are no chances for things like you," crowed the fork as the bunny struggled. "Nobody wants you. Nobody cares you're lost. You're surplus." The hole punch dragged aside the heavy manhole cover to reveal a dark hole. The bunny gave frightened squeaks as the fork prodded him closer and closer to the edge. At last, the little bunny slipped and fell. They heard his cry of terror growing fainter and fainter, as though he was sliding away down a chute. And then his scream was silenced by the hole punch slamming the metal lid back over the tunnel entrance. The two loss adjusters straightened their black hats and hopped away, looking pleased with themselves. Slowly, all the things who'd watched this horrible scene began to talk again. A plastic comb standing beside Jack whispered, "Wasn't that dreadful?" He had an odd appearance, having one eye on each side of him, and was speaking from a gap between his prongs. "Yes," said Jack, "it was horrible." He felt as though one of them should have tried to help the bunny instead of watching him get thrown down the chute. He wished he'd done something. But then he might have been recognized as a living boy and perhaps made to leave the land of the lost before he could find DP. "It's disgusting, the way they treat surplus," said the battery standing beside the comb, keeping her voice low in case a loss adjuster heard. The Christmas pig had now reached the front of the nearest line. The corkscrew loss adjuster, which had just sent the sapphire ring to wait beside the golden door, had a loud voice, so Jack was able to hear everything that passed between him and the pig. "Name?" asked the corkscrew. "The Christmas pig." "Where were you made?" "Dingle Down Factory, Birmingham." "Date and place of enlivening?" "This afternoon," said the Christmas pig. "In the Pendleton toy shop." "And they've lost you already?" "Toot toot," said the corkscrew. He examined the long list in front of him. "Christmas, Christmas. Christmas, Christmas. Yes, here you are, Christmas pig. Oh dear, nobody seems to like you very much, do they? I'm a replacement, said the Christmas pig. Ah, said the corkscrew with a smirk, twisting in his chair. Yes, replacements sometimes work out and sometimes not. In your case, I see it's not. But you're still brand new, so if anyone finds you, they will probably find a use for you. Charity shop, I expect. Wooden door. So the Christmas pig hurried to join Jack's group beside the wooden door, which now swung open.
Chapter 19 Horsey Things. An icy blast of air hit them as they walked outside. To Jack's surprise, because it had been night when he'd left the land of the living, the sun was only just setting outside the warehouse. Snow was falling from a strange sky, which looked as though it was made of painted wood, though it was far, far higher than any ceiling in the land of the living. Jack could see a few distant finding holes in the wooden sky, but not nearly as many as they'd been in the ceiling of Mislaid. The land all around them was bleak and empty, a stony wasteland which stretched away into the distance, with only clumps of thistles growing there. Between the barren ground and the swirling snow, it was the most unwelcoming place Jack had ever seen. He gazed over his shoulder at the wall of Mislaid and saw to his amazement that the door they'd just come through had vanished. And then it struck him that there was no way back now, unless he found DP. He was starting to fear that the land of the lost was even stranger and more complicated than he'd first thought. For instance, what would the things who'd gone through the other doors see when they got to the other side? And most importantly, which door had DP gone through? Then Jack heard the sound of hooves. He and the rest of the group, who apart from the comb and the battery included a little plastic ruler, an eraser in the shape of a panda, some shoelaces, and a pair of chopsticks, turned to see a number of horse-shaped things approaching. There were plastic ponies, a cuddly pink unicorn, a pottery cart horse, and the latest of the lot, a big wicker donkey carrying baskets of plastic fruit on either side of its saddle. At the head of all these different things rode another loss adjuster, a pair of kitchen scissors wearing 2 black hats, one for each of his handles. He was mounted, ends downward, on a wooden horse with squeaky wheels. "Hurry up, get on," snapped the scissors. "No," he added sharply to Jack and the Christmas pig, who were headed toward 2 of the plastic ponies. "You were the biggest. You can share the donkey." So Jack and the Christmas pig clambered onto the donkey, which gave a groan and said, "Mind my wicker. It can snap, you know." Most of the other things had great difficulty mounting their horses. The comb, the battery, the ruler, the chopsticks kept sliding off, and the scissors ended up instructing the shoelaces to tie them on. Just as everybody had successfully mounted, a wailing klaxon sounded from behind the wall of Mislaid. "Oh dear," said Scissors, startled. "That's not good." "What does it mean?" asked the comb, sounding panicked. "It means," said Scissors, "that something is where it shouldn't be." Jack and the Christmas pig exchanged worried looks. Jack was sure the Christmas pig was thinking the same as him. Somehow, the loss adjusters knew Jack was there, even though he'd avoided questioning. "Will the loser come?"
whispered the ruler, who was trembling. Maybe, said the scissors. If a thing's disobeyed the rules, the losers will want to catch them and eat them. You disobey the rules, you become surplus, and surplus gets eaten. Always has. Always will. That's the law. Scissors cast a sharp look over the group of things on their horses. You've all been allocated right and proper, haven't you? He asked. They all nodded and said yes. Scissors kicked his wooden horse on. Its squeaky wheels began to turn, and all of them set off along a snowy trail that led around the outskirts of the wasteland. Well, if you're lying, we'll find out soon enough, said Scissors in a grim voice. Chapter 20. The Wicker Donkey. Why is it still daytime? Jack whispered to the Christmas pig as they set off, the wicker donkey creaking as it walked. It was dark when we left my room. Time's different in the land of the lost, the Christmas pig whispered back. They say an hour in the land of the living is a whole day in the land of the lost. The snow fell thickly, and soon the shoulders of Jack's pajamas were cold and wet, although that didn't worry him nearly as much as the possibility that the loser was about to loom out of the darkness. However, nothing happened except that the battery slipped a little on her plastic pony, and the shoelaces binding her on had to tighten themselves. Even though the sky had that oddly painted appearance, it slowly darkened as they rode around the edge of the wasteland. Soon, night had fallen. Jack only knew that Scissors was still leading them because he could hear the squeak of his horse's wheels. Jack whispered to the Christmas pig, "Where did you think they're taking us?" "I don't know," said the Christmas pig, "but we'll obey orders for now. All the things I've ever known have told me that breaking the loser's laws is the quickest way to get eaten. He lives out there." The Christmas pig added, pointing one of his trotters at the wide stony wasteland. "That's the waste of the unlamented." "What does unlamented mean?" asked Jack. "It means no human cares you've gone," said the Christmas pig, staring out over the bleak landscape. "It's where surplus goes. Things that are unloved and unwanted and useless. They don't get any shelter. They just roam around on the waste until the loser catches them." "Well, DP definitely can't be on the waste," said Jack. "He's more loved and wanted than anything down here, I expect." "No, he can't be out there," agreed the Christmas pig, looking away from the waste at the dirt track ahead. "If we're lucky, he'll be wherever we're going. It must be a place for cheap things, by the looks of this group." "DP isn't cheap," said Jack at once. "He's very valuable." "He's valuable to you, but we pigs aren't expensive," said the Christmas pig. "I only hope nobody thinks it's strange when his identical twin turns up." "Oh, don't worry about that," said Jack. "You don't look anything like DP. He's a different color. His eyes have fallen out and he's got buttons instead. His ears are wonky and he smells better." Their wicker donkey creaked and swayed. The battery whimpered as she slid sideways off her pony yet again, and the shoelaces gripped her even more tightly. "What do you mean, he smells better?" asked the Christmas pig. "I don't know, he smells like DP, that's all." "And how do I smell?" asked the Christmas pig. "Of toy shop and carpet," said Jack. "It's a nothing smell." "Thanks very much," said the Christmas pig. After that, there was silence, except for the clip-clop of pottery and plastic hooves, the creaking of the wicker donkey, and the squeaking of the wheels on Scissors' horse. At last, Scissors shouted, "Welcome home!" Out of the darkness loomed a battered wooden sign on which was written in flaky paint, "Welcome to Disposable."